All right, Ron, we're ready.
I'm ready when you are.
Yeah.
Okay. Fine.
Okay, are we recording?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. This is Ron, Saturday morning. And as we usually do, we'll start off and see if we have any questions. Any questions all about anything that we've spoken of in the last couple of days or weeks, or something you may have seen during the course of the week, or just anything in general. Okay. Um, I got a couple of things, I guess, or questions I'll start off with. Uh, One question is this. I have noticed, and a lot of things that we have studied in the past seem to be transforming, meaning to me, we're seeing them not differently as something totally different, but we're seeing the more we're seeing an addition, like that, like for example, uh, I'm interested. I'm really seeing something in Genesis, looking at Cain and Abel again, and but I'm interested in the word son, and it's very easy to look at the Hebrew understanding of being bar, and B. It's spelled different way, BEN, BAR, uh, and it talks about being earthy, being a son of the foundation, or something to grow on. Uh, but if you, I'm looking at again some things that I have, and the understanding of Son of Man we have taken to mean the human. But I'm looking at some stuff now that had looked at before from Douglas Klotz. But Son of Man is more than just a human. It talks about being as much heavenly as you are earthy. So it's talking about a transforming, or being in that transitional state. Uh, and the reason it got my attention, because he quotes from the book of Thomas, where Thomas says, when the two becomes one, then you become the Son of Man. And that kind of got my attention. So it's more than saying the human. It's talking about the elevated portion of the human, where he recognizes that he is as much enlightenment as he is earthy. So it's talking about a continuous, almost as though the man becomes a verb. He's always evolving into the light that he's supposed to be. Uh, any questions about that? Because I think it means far more than we originally thought.
We're on. Go ahead.
Does someone else have something?
Can you hear me, Ron?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
I was listening to you. And, I think that we've already looked at that without even knowing.
Okay.
You remember when we were talking about being human is different than having an animalistic attitude, right?
Yeah.
Human is knowing who you are. Remember that?
Okay.
So being human, as you were stating, is not so much being um, enlightened and physical at the same time, is recognizing it. When you recognize it and act accordingly, that makes you human. If not, you're animalistic. Is that not what we had spoken about previously?
Yes, you're right.
So this
Yes.
is, when you say it's more than saying that Jesus is human, It is indeed, because if we look at what is written in the book, we do not see that reference to anyone except Jesus, who has come into his own in terms of understanding who he is. You don't hear
Right.
from disciples at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Therefore,
I'm sorry.
therefore, in order for us to be human, we have to be something that we have always talked about, but we used it wrong. We talked about being Christ-like. When in essence, in order for you to be Christ, to be the Messiah, or to be Messianic, you first have to be human. So you have to be like Jesus. And Jesus came in his words to show us how to be human. And then we are able to be that Messianic force in the earth. Make sense?
Yes. And that is almost a full explanation of what I was looking at with Cain and Abel, which we'll get in at another time. The being human versus the animalistic instincts. That says far more too than what we originally looked. I think we are, as things are being uncovered to us, we revisit a lot of things already gone over.
For 1 second, you said something. And I don't want to go past that till we really hear what you said. You said animalistic instincts, which is more precise than animalistic mind.
Yeah.
Because mind will process, instincts doesn't. Ask the question. This is asking salary and salt.
Just a soft-spoken person. I said the instincts just act.
Yes.
The mind processes, like
Right.
you were saying. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what most of us
Yeah.
use.
That's it.
Instinct.
Instinct. We respond. I mean, we react rather than respond.
That's it. We react rather than respond. That's
And
that's what we do. Yeah. Yeah.
So, question, as we move processing more, we're moving toward our humanism, our humanistic side
Yeah,
being.
depends on the basis of your process. If you process it on the basis of what you have experienced in this environment, that's different than processing to seek, to find out who
Okay.
you are, your true essence.
Does that make
You see?
okay? That makes sense.
See,
So are we always, the journey never ends. We are always moving towards,
we're always in
Being-
the state of becoming.
we're always in a state of becoming human, more aware.
Becoming the express essence of Elohim.
Okay.
See, when you are 100% spiritual
Mhm,
outside of this body,
mhm.
you Elohim. In this body, you become. Because you are dealing with in this body, you have a huge responsibility in this body. The responsibility that you have in this body is the same responsibility that Elohim had during the process. What was created, we got to maintain. I have no man to till the ground. There's no man, there's no human to till the ground. Tilling the ground is not talking about planting some cotton. You know, tilling the ground is talking about consciousness. The seeds that are in this consciousness must be the seeds that, as we say, put in the macro for the express purpose of that energy of those words that brings us to this state of spirituality. This energy is what others act upon without really knowing it. with, for example, the changes that we are seeing, the balance that that's taking place right now before our eyes, and we don't even see it. That's because of the energy that we have put in the macro, not the words only, because the words they don't hear, the energy they experience, and we, Ron, were you going someplace? Because I'm about to say something that might take us in a different.
Go ahead. We go where we go. Yeah, just go ahead.
Okay, because what I'm saying in essence is that we right now, as we are discussing this, and as we go about our daily lives, what is taking place is something that we have been searching for. Our desire has been balance and harmony, right?
Yes.
So, but we have been looking for harmony to look like a tapestry that is woven okay, we all get along type thing.
Yeah.
That's not what it looks like. In order for harmony to take place, then all of the things that have created disharmony in the earth has to be dealt with. And what I mean by dealt with, I'm saying that our desires, all of those decisions that were brought down, that was handed down by the Supreme Court last week, every one of those decisions, we instigated it. And then we get upset about it. You cause something to happen for the purpose of balance and then a harmony, and then you get upset about it. So now that's a mixed signal. And when you say mixed signals to the universe, then what you get back is you don't get clarity. What I have been shown this week is what it looks like. What does it look like when balance begins to manifest? It's already here. Everything is in the now. There is absolutely nothing that does not exist, that needs to exist for the express purpose of balancing this earth consciousness. And in doing so, balances humanity. Balance is what Ron spoke of in the beginning. When we embrace the reality and continuously experience that we are both physical beings and spiritual beings, as the story goes about Jesus being both physical and spiritual, embracing that and knowing that in itself becoming one with the universe in a truer sense than lip service. Now, let me show you. When you become one with the universe with more than lip service, what happens? You recognize that in order for this structured, conflicted government to exist, it must have strong underpinnings. And the underpinnings of this government is the executive branch, the Congress, legislative branch, and the judicial, Supreme Court. In order for balance to exist, then if these are the governing bodies, then these governing bodies have to be in sync. And these governing bodies have been in sync when it came to oppressing people. But when we put in the macro our desire for balance, what happened? The synchronicity between these pillows began to diminish. They started fighting each other. And when we look at this, and we are talking about the underpinnings must fall in order for harmony to be in this earth. And that's beginning to happen. The Supreme Court hands down a decision about affirmative action. And we get upset. We did it because we want balance. How do you get that? What does it look like in that regard? Well, in order for affirmative action to be removed, or affirmative action for white people got to go too. White people called it affirmative action because it carries negative connotations, which infers that you're looking for a handout when you got to have the grades anyway to get there. Legacy is a cute little way of saying white people got affirmative action, because legacy is nothing but affirmative action. So now legacy got to go. So if you look at that, I'm not saying that it's here, that is manifested at this moment. It's here, but we have to see the beginnings of the manifestation. If you look at just affirmative action and legacy, those two things are removed. And now what's left if those two things are removed? You've got to make a decision about whether you're going to have a level playing field or whether you're going to have to put something in its place. And I'm saying that when affirmative action and legacy bites the dust, then we began to see in the macro the beginning of the manifestation of harmony. The same thing with Congress. The Supreme Court is corrupt as the mafia. And the Congress is just as weak and corrupt as anything else. And I'm talking about both parties. And the executive is no different. All of them are weak. And when you are on a weak foundation, it crumbles. And the crumbling of the foundation is not about a physical building falling. It is about oppressive principles being shown for what they are. And the oppressive principles, when you look at affirmative action is in place because of oppression. Affirmative action is taken out for the express purpose of continuing the oppression in favor of white kids. But when the affirmative action for white kids are taken away, now what's left? You see where I'm coming from? Does that make sense? So what we have been seeing is in these decisions and in the rift that's happening in Congress right now. There was a bigger rift in the Republican caucus. So what are we seeing? We're seeing a rift in the Democrat caucus. And the rift is the good old white boys want to keep it the way it is, and the millennials saying no. The progressives saying no. This has to work for everyone. So we are seeing the beginnings of a structure for a nation being put in place while we are experiencing the downfall of an empire. And we are able to read the signs of the times, meaning when we are able to see what was being spoken to us when we look.
We don't hear you anymore.
I beg your pardon?
Yeah, you cut out on us.
I could still hear.
I could hear you.
Okay, so it must be, can you get in a different place, Ron?
I'll move to another room.
Okay. So what we're seeing is the beginnings of what is going to manifest in this earth, harmony. Now, what does that harmony look like? I have no clue. And I don't want to have a clue. Why? Because when it's time to see it, one of us gonna see it. And I'm not searching for it in terms of seeing what it's gonna look like. I'm dealing with what's in front of me. What is in front of me? I have been shown what the underpinnings of harmony does before harmony is manifested. And the underpinnings of harmony is moving all of this disharmony, if that's a word, out of place, out of the way, so that we can begin to have these experiences. And these experiences are solidified by us being on the same page, meaning that we don't react, we respond, that we don't engage in arguments about what the Bible is saying. We just engage in opportunities to bring light to other people. We don't beat anybody over the head because they don't see what we see. It's okay. Will they ever see what we see? It's doubtful. Some people don't want to see it. it doesn't matter as long as they experience harmony. Can you see that?
Yeah, I see that entails sometimes, well, really most of the time you said don't be arguing. That entails just being quiet and just let the,
That the universe do its job.
okay.
Let it
show-
do its job.
show-
That's it. That's it.
Arguing is just getting caught up in the minutia of the stuff, right?
Yeah,
In the mess of the stuff, as opposed to knowing that, you know, this brings me back to the thing about spiritual warfare. It's not carnal.
Yeah.
Spiritual warfare, as opposed to knowing that you know within yourself,
Arguing
that
blinds you.
it's happening. Okay.
Your arguing does not permit you to see the light. You get caught up in intellectual masturbation. You're intellectualizing everything and producing nothing. You're not impregnating the macro with anything other than confusion. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So we have to be cognizant of that. And us being cognizant of that has nothing to do with us walking around reciting the mantra. It has everything to do with us knowing how to be in a constant state of meditation. So there is a continuous infusion of energy into the macro for the express purpose of bringing balance.
So we should try to exist in the peace or the meditation of the chaos.
No, not try.
We should be
Yes, yes.
in the meditation.
We don't try anything. We
Okay.
be everything.
Be.
Any other questions or comments? Is that clear?
It's clear. I have a couple of thoughts though. One, I was listening to CNN, I think, or there might have been CNBC, I can't remember which one, but they had a couple of deans on there, deans of admissions, different colleges, talking about affirmative action. And one of the things they were talking about was they have seen the positive side of it, and they were naming people and how it's working and the graduation rate of people and these sort of things. They were saying that we need to get more creative in how we do this now. And I thought that was a positive sign. Of course, it was only a couple people, but I just thought that was a positive sign, something to see.
But let's move into balance. And we got to get creative about it, right? So we got to get creative about it for everybody. See, this thing, what they may feel bad, God may feel good. Meaning that this whole thing about affirmative action being this decision being handed down came from a white man who's been trying to destroy it for the last 20 years. And he recruited Asians to be the plaintiffs in this case for the purpose of destroying affirmative action. The very people whose responsibility is to maintain and strengthen this system of oppression are the very ones who's destroying it and don't know it. And they're destroying it by virtue of making every effort to increase the oppression of anyone who does not look like them. And what they meant for our destruction actually is being for our benefit, because it's for the benefit of humanity and not just for the African. And guess what? The instigator behind it all is the African. Because affirmative action got directed toward who? The Africans. So the effort to destroy the African is like the phoenix. I'll rise again. The phoenix always rises. And one other thing, when you talk about being human, we talk about being balanced. Jesus says, what Jesus says, I'm going to make a note of. Jesus says, I declared your name. I have made known your name. I have given them the understanding of your enlightenment in very ways. I've done that. And it is my desire that the same affection that you have for me, the enlightenment, that you will have it for those who are enlightened for the express purpose of enlightening others. If you don't embrace the enlightenment in a tangible way, then you will not be able to bring to experience rather balance within. You will not be able to do that. Now, I'm going to say something that we probably have not paid much attention to. Jesus went through stages before he got to where he is to Father forgive me. Jesus turned over tables. Jesus, what did that accomplish? Nothing. Jesus called them, tell those dogs, I don't have time for them. What did that accomplish? Nothing. Those are our stages too. Jesus goes into this garden, this place of creative energy, garden. He goes to this place of spiritual growth. And in this place, he said, you know what? I want to remain in this earth as a physical being. However, if it is truly your desire that I become fully human, then let it be. And then he doesn't say, he says, he doesn't say, what is it? Why hast thou forsaken me? Then he says, I understand that I was brought here for this cause. For what cause? For the cause of understanding the necessity of crucifixion of everything that I see with my eyes as beneficial to humanity, as opposed to seeing with my eye. I brought him for this purpose so that humanity can see that they are going to stumble through this thing, but they will be able to do as I did. And what he's saying is, when you are able to embrace the reality and the meaning of what I am teaching you, it is then that you will be who I am, and you will also do things because you know who you are, greater than these things that I've done. You will bring down governments. You will create an environment for humanity to be at peace with itself, as opposed to friction. Jesus did not bring down the Roman government. Jesus also showed us that religion is nothing but a game. And he did that when he recognized that there were two high priests, Annas and Caiaphas. And one was appointed by the Romans, the other one was appointed by the priests. And it doesn't matter if the Romans is the government appointing being in cahoots with Catholicism, and the other one is appointed by Martin Luther in terms of Protestantism or Islam or whatever it is. Then what happens? Jesus is saying that these are the things that you're going to have to deal with. But you are not to go after the people. It is not the individual. It is the message that comes from them. It is the message of oppression that you have to deal with. And in dealing with it, you cannot be internally oppressed. You have to have internal experiences about who you are. You can't be angry, you can't be upset when you bring something into fruition because of your design. And if you can't see with your eye, you go only see with your eyes, and that's the reason you got upset with affirmative action falling. Because we were looking at it with our eyes. But we have to see it with both. When you see it with your eyes, then you're in a state of meditation. So you're like, okay, this means something about your business. And then it becomes clear to the eye. And it looks totally different than what it has been expressed to be by the media or by the politicians. Politicians, the media, they don't see this as being an opportunity or a manifestation of balance. I'm done. Unless there are questions or comments.
Good morning, everyone. Reb, I got, well, to the body of the people, I got a question for you, to the group as it relates to seeing with your eye and using your inner eye. And may sound far-fetched, yet, Reverend Richard, if you were a salesperson with Greater New Faith Foundation Toyota dealership, and multiple people are getting out of their vehicle to look at a vehicle or maybe even purchase a vehicle, what spiritual minded concepts would you use to aid them in obtaining a vehicle? Because if I just look at that with the physical eye, yeah, I see somebody jump out of a vehicle with a UPS uniform on, I'ma naturally run to them. I'ma naturally gravitate to them because it's based on image. Yet the person who comes out of a vehicle that just now left their garden, may be a little dirty, how would you implement those spiritual minded concepts in not looking at, hey, that individual works for UPS, they got money? Is that a fair, and I know that's bringing a lot of gray area into play, and I'm not one for bringing gray area into a play because it's not always the best. Yet, do you understand what I'm saying, Reverend Richard, or does anyone understand what I'm saying? Could you show me how you would implement those spiritual-minded concepts to look past the individual in the UPS uniform and help all of them obtain a vehicle? You dig what I'm saying, Reverend Richard, or you don't dig?
I do. I think I do anyway. If I'm not, then just, clear it up when I make an effort. What I'm hearing is, how do you look past what this society has told you is a symbol of progress or symbol of success, and see the spiritual with your eye? Well, that's up to the individual being. I cannot give you a formula. And the reason I can't is because regardless of how many people are on this phone or on Zoom rather, or in this room, every one of them have different experiences. And there are two ways that we can reach this space where they can experience it. And the they of whom I speak, or the they who looking at the UPS man. You can do it by receiving the energy of the macro and saying he's more than that UPS uniform. Regardless of how much income he has, he's more than that income. You can do it that way. Or, well, it's more than two, I guess. Or you can actually find someone or actually put yourself in the position of desiring to see spiritually, and the teacher will appear. And that teacher appears to a group of people or to an individual person. And based upon the desires of that person and the questions that are raised and responded to, it begins to develop a desire for that experience in a much stronger way. Or if you do not really want to disconnect from your desires in the spirit, in the physical world, your desire for things, then you walk away from it. And you never get that experience. It's all about your desire to experience what truth is. And when we talk about what truth is, we're not talking about truth as opposed to a lie. We're talking about truth being the way that life is supposed to have been from the beginning, as opposed to what we have created to be life. When we talk about living the good life, we're talking about being in love with things or embracing things and having great experiences with them to the extent that we don't see or don't even really embrace the pain of others. When we talk about spiritual living a good life, we're talking about not only seeing with the eyes, but having an experience of how to push that energy out there so that these people can find some semblance of balance in their lives so they don't have to go through that. And believe you me, there is no difference than, and since you used that example, there's no difference than a UPS truck driver making $100,000 a year and someone on the street panhandling. There's no difference in them when it comes to spirituality. Both of them, their eyes are on what they got, the material. Both of them are looking at the material world. And so the material world, spiritual world is not based on what you have as much as it's based on your desired experiences. Does that make sense?
Reb, I completely agree with that, and it's just the reason why I asked the question. I was talking to an individual that's a seasoned salesperson, and I was just asking that person, "Hey, how do you know who to approach?" And one of the things that salesperson did say, who's retired now, you can't look at the physical part of it. You got to look at how people walk, their mannerism, just things like that. So I completely agree with what you're saying there. The other question or statement that I have is when Ron said animal instinct, to me, it's very easy to morph an individual or morph individuals into an animal instinct. And I feel all you got to do is lead, teach, and manage division. I think Trump is a good example of that. He teaches division, he manages division, he preaches, and he leads division. And I'm also kind of leery of people who parent by division. That kind of like scares me. Yet the antidote to that is it's kind of difficult to do. Yet once you buy into the concept of it, there's a good antidote for it of not teaching division or anything like that. So just be mindful of when you're around supervisors or people that are in leadership. If they're leading by division, it's not going to be a good outcome because it's going to affect morale. And before it affects morale, it's going to have an impact on your psyche to affect morale. So be leery, be cognizant of that in our daily walk. Thank you.
Trump he does not teach it. Trump is just exposing what was the foundation from the beginning of this nation. He's not teaching. All he's doing is exposing it by perpetuating what the founders of this nation had in mind. He's not doing it in an eloquent way, but it's exactly what Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and Madison, all of them had the same vision in mind: get rich off the backs of slaves. And women have no place in this society other than to be servants and baby machines. I'm done. Oh, and the guy who said, you watch how they walk, he using his spirituality, his energy for selfish purposes without even knowing. And we do it all the time. You can walk into a group of people and you feel the energy is not good. You say that didn't feel right. What are you talking about, energy? So anyway, I'm done for now. right?
My thought on that is George choose to use it as an example. If I can speak on it for a second, I used to be a car salesman, and of course, they didn't know half of what we know now. But my approach to things were, and I got out of it because of the deceitfulness and the untruth and the trickery that is done. And that is in new and used cars, but especially used cars. And but there was some pleasure in it as well, as far as helping people that get something that they needed. You run into that, and I would sometimes take them for a ride, and I take them somewhere and tell them to park the car, and ask them, okay, what do you have? What is it you have that can get this car? And we try to work with the money they have, and I sit them down and say, hey, when you get in the office, this is what he's going to say to you. This is to be your response. And I teach them and right quickly and go over it with them how to get this car. And I say, even if you have to leave and come back, tell him no, or I got to think about it. Leave and come back. But we're going to get this car. And we do things like that. The thing that I think was my original thought, and this went far for me to give me confidence in what I was doing. When a car pulls up in a car lot, he's there to buy a car. He's not looking for a sewing machine, a washer and dryer. He's not there to buy a house. So half of your battle is done. He comes to a car lot because he needs a car. So now you have to open yourself up to listen to him, feel who he is, and how he wants to go about this. Does he need your help, or does he have the money to do it outright? And that's the approach you take. So it wasn't, like I said, a lot of trickery and stuff that was done that I didn't like. But for the most part, I kind of enjoyed it, just the interaction with the people. But anyway, I don't know if that helps or not. But I do have a question. Pastor, on Monday night, you went into, when you were talking about describing what the macro looks like and how we put things in the macro and explaining that so we could have a better understanding. You mentioned several times energy, moving energy, and I want to ask questions about that. How can we set ourselves up to receive energy? Can we push energy to others? Or how do we do that? Or are we doing it just through meditation? Is the meditation enough, or is there more to it?
There's much more to it. First of all, for the last few weeks, I have taken a look at meditation again for the first time. And what I found is that there are too many rules that are given to people to meditate, which makes it more difficult to do it. And these rules have been instituted by people who know nothing about meditation. They have made it be what they want it. For example, when you look at meditation from the East, the ancient people who meditated did not have all these rules about your sitting position, where you should be, what you do with your mind, what you do with thoughts rather in your mind, and what you should focus on, those kind of things. They didn't have those things. Keeping in mind that meditation was a part of the education that was developed by the Kushites. And the education the first educational institutions in the world were for the express purpose of understanding the unicity that man has with its creator, period. It was for understanding the relationship between the universe and humanity. So meditation is pretty much what you, the method of it rather, is pretty much what you're comfortable with. I can sit in a rocking chair, and I only talk about me because I'm not experiencing anybody else meditating other than me, okay? I can sit in a rocking chair and take a few deep breaths, and I'm meditating. All this stuff comes through my mind, and I let it flow. And for a few moments, I may hear the birds, and then I don't hear anything. And I don't determine how long I'm there. It's simply that my eyes open. And that's exactly what happened when I saw this thing about balance. And I had no idea that I had been shown this until a few days later. Now, when it talks about the flow of energy, let me share this with you. Most of you know that I have counseling and psychiatry, as you know, in addition, of course, to primary physician. My psychiatrist, we had a discussion, and my psychiatrist speaks about energy flows the same way we do. Of course, my psychiatrist cannot be open with that because of the expectations of a European education in psychiatry, but knows very well what energy flows look like and how effective they are, and how we have unicity with the input. So how do you use that to push energy to other people? Or I use the term push, I use the term flow. So it's simply to say that I purposely desire energy to lead me or to flow through me for the express purpose of being beneficial to someone else. I was dealing with some things, and I was sitting in a recliner, and I was just thinking about what I was going through, and all of a sudden I started taking deep breaths, and everything changed in terms of my inner feelings, my inner experiences. They changed. There was no chaos there anymore. And just as I was experiencing that, a text came through. And in that text, this person said, I just pushed energy to you. And I understood what changed. You understand? So how do I do that? I get in that state and I focus on the recipient of the energy. It happens. Or I simply say, not to worry, I got this. When I tell you I got this, that means that the energy that has been that is there carrying you through chaotic circumstances, I am repurposing that energy in you. I am bringing balance to the energy that has caused confusion with you, as opposed to allowing that energy to guide itself. The energy of our oneness begins to guide your energy to a place of balance. Instead of using the energy to turn the TV on, I use the energy to turn the light on. So it's repurposing the energy. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Now, to get into specifics about it, maybe someone else who can explain that flow better than I can. All I can tell you is that's how I do it. And I don't meditate for the purpose of receiving anything. I meditate for the purpose of humanity, period. And because I shut down for that, that means that if there is something that my eye needs to see, I'll receive that sight. If there is something that humanity needs from me, humanity will receive it. So I don't meditate for anything other than for humanity. Everything else take care of itself. Because birds have nests, foxes have holes. The human energy must have a resting place. And that resting place for human energy is in our embracing the reality that it exists. If you do not embrace the reality that it exists, it can be beneficial. My phone needs to be muted, please. So the whole idea of meditating, we have been, at least I anyway, is to bring order to my life. For me to see how to deal with situations, for me to get moved from a state of depression, for me to get insight from something that I don't understand. That's how we, for the most part, have been taught. Meditation is for you to receive. It's for you to benefit. And when you look at it spiritually, that is not the purpose of meditation. Jesus talked about praying, right? If you read that prayer in Matthew 6, that is not a prayer, that is a method of meditation. And everything in that talks about someone else. Give us this day our daily. You see, it's about humanity. It's not about you, the individual person. Does that make sense, Ron?
Yeah. So, well, you answered two things. One, then, even though there are times I see or feel a shortcoming in me, the meditation should always be for mankind. I don't do it because I see something that I want to change in me. So when the change comes in me, then what you're saying, if I'm hearing you right, is meditating for the universe, meditating for mankind.
Yes.
Okay.
In order, excuse me, in order for me to be in a position to do that, I desire to be in the midst of positive energy constantly. So in the house that we live in, it is incumbent upon me to make sure the flow of energy in that dwelling is positive. So that if you cross that door seal, it doesn't matter what your energy is, it's going to be balanced in the house that we live in. Because the authority of that energy seeks that balance. If your energy is bad, then when you step across that door seal, then that is a message from the universe that this person is coming for help, or you need to get this person away from you. That's a message. If I walk, if I'm going down the street and I feel this negative energy, and I'm like, what's going on? And all of a sudden, I see a policeman, and he approaches me. I know this has to be dealt with immediately. if I'm walking and I'm sensing negative energy, and someone walks up to me and say, "Can you help me?" That means that's you will know the difference if you're in tune to who you are. And there are so many different instances that this where this happens until it's virtually impossible to name every single one of them.
Pastor, good morning.
Which I talk about my experiences and it's not yours because I'm the one who, Questions, comments? Somebody's about to say something?
Yes, I have a question, Pastor. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning. This is Kathy. When you talk about pushing the energy, I want to take you back there. I want to incorporate from the scriptures when the woman with the issue of blood touched the hem of the garment of Jesus, he said, "Who touched me?" because he felt the energy leave his body. When you're pushing energy, I can feel it leave my body sometimes. And I wanted you to touch on that because there are times, not every time, but there are times when I know beyond the shadow of a doubt that I have pushed that energy to that person. And that's, and when I talk to them later, they'll say, "I got it. I received what you did and everything changed." So can you speak to that, or when you can feel the energy actually leaving your body?
Yes. The state that you are in determines whether or not you experience the energy flow leaving your body. Now, in the case of the woman with the issue of blood touching the hem, it's simply because Jesus was at a place where there was a continuous, massive flow of energy through his body from the universe. Jesus said, "Who touched me?" He did not say, "Who touched the hem of my garment?" He said, "Who touched me?" And the me of whom he was speaking, energy, because he knows that that's what he is. When your priority, when your express priority is to benefit humanity and be a source of healing for humanity. And I'm not just talking about physicality. I'm talking about healing, period. Because we live in a sick society and it needs healing. When that's your primary and you do not allow anything to become a priority over that, you are a constant source for the flowing of energy. None of your energy is restricted. None. You can target it or you can just be who you are, and people will walk up to you and say, "May I talk to them?" They don't know you, you never seen them, they never seen you, but that flow of energy is speaking to their soul and saying to them, "This is the healer, this is the source of the healing. This is the source that can pull all of those that chaos from you. This is the source that can bring order to your soul, to your mind." And that's, we say, "I don't know why these people are drawn to me." It's because of the energy flows. And if you are angry, nobody comes to you. Nobody walks up to you and says, "I have an issue I need to deal with," because you're the issue. If you're angry, what happens? You're functioning from your mind and not your soul. Does that make sense, guys? The rest of you?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome. And see, the objective is to always be that ball of energy and not that body. Because the body is nothing really. When the energy leaves your body, you dead. Your body is always dead. There is not a word in the Hebrew or the Aramaic that speaks to a living body. It is always corpse. The only thing that lives is you. It's like stepping into a bionic suit. That suit can't move without you. As you walk, it walks. If you can see that image and see that the energy that you are is doing the same thing in this thing we call a body. It's no different than a bionic suit. It does not move without you. What you gonna do with it is the question. Where's your desire for it to flow is the question.
Pastor, I have a statement I would like to make if Kathy is finished.
Go ahead, Kathy, are you finished?
Yes, I'm finished. I'm finished. Thank you.
You talked about how when people come to your house, how, you know, you don't, I kind of forgot what you had said, but how different people come to your house. And you know to whether let them in or not. And just because of the energy. I took that by me being in this body that I am, this is the house that I live in. I'm talking about the spirit, you know, yeah, this is the house that I live in, which is my body. And you know when somebody is coming to you with the wrong intent or whatever. So I'm glad you made the statement that you made, because I looked at it internally. Yeah, I don't have to be in a physical or a physical house, but I know that this body that I live in is a house. And I know when the intent of an individual is not right. I know when it's pleasant. I know when I can feel, or we all can feel when someone's motive is right. So that's what, would you mind elaborating on that for me, please?
Sure. We got to be
I
careful.
guess it's the same thing.
You got to be careful about that. Because there are times when we are to energy when it's our mind because we don't like that person. That has a major effect. If there is somebody you don't like consciously or subconsciously, it makes a difference. And unless you are cognizant of self, who you are in terms of that, it is very easy to reject someone because you don't like them, as opposed to their energy being negative. You have to feel it. And there are people whose energy is negative, is all good, and they are welcome. They come into that house and we sit and we talk, and it changes. Why? I don't make the decision based upon simply upon well, this energy is negative, so I ain't gonna fool with them. I make the decision based upon what I sense, what I'm experiencing internally. I hear with my eye. And what I'm saying is that I hear, yes, this energy is negative, but you need to talk to him. I don't hear it like that. I respond because I'm experiencing something internally. Does that make sense, Evan?
It does, and it's just like the people you work with, you know that they'll bring you something, and they're you could just feel the energy. You know that their intent is not right. But, and I know you say just be, and you will know what to do or how to prevent, or you'll know what to say to them once they come to you, because it happens all the time at the agency. But I know that I have to stay the course. Yes.
Or you will know what not to say. Sometimes it's best to just.
For that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too. But what I'm saying, just in general, you know, because when there's so much going on, even on the phone talking to people, I know when they're trying to be smart. I know, you know, when they're there to gain information or what to do. So that's what I'm talking about.
You're right. You will know. We cannot grow in getting even or being vengeful. We cannot get caught up in where you pissed me off, and I'm gonna let you that kind of thing. This is not a thing where you quote unquote lay down your religion because you don't have it. This is not that at all. This is not something, well, we do the positive side of this. Everything that you say in your life, even if you have to chastise, should always be for the benefit of positivity. For the benefit of enlightenment, everything. Everything. When I saw that bird, I shared that with my psychiatrist. And my psychiatrist says to me, she smiled and said, so what does that mean? And I told her, she said, so are you trusting the universe? It kind of laughed. And she said it in a way that she was saying, no, you do know you're supposed to trust the universe. That kind of, without saying it. That's what she was saying. So
Say that again. She said,
she asked me, now are you trusting the universe, right?
okay.
Pastor, I can't hear you speaking.
Hello.
I
I can't hear it.
I can hear you guys, but I can't hear them in the room.
I was about to ask if y'all
Yeah.
just got ready.
Oh, I think they were knocked off or something.
Ron?
Yes, sir.
Ron? Yeah,
Yeah.
the computer went out. We don't know whether it crashed or not, but we got a black screen. But anyway,
Pastor, we can't hear you.
what about now?
Can hear you clearly now.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
we can hear you.
Okay.
The last thing I heard you say was she asked, "Do you trust the universe?"
okay,
Right.
and that was a figure of speech. That's how she said it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what am I saying to you? I have had the same psychiatrist for I don't know how many years. And can you hear me now? Hello?
Yep.
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That out of all these years, we just now had that discussion. But more important than that, or just as important as that, Phoebus oncologists believe the same thing. So why is it? With us.
Not sure what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't hear either.
Say that again, Pastor. You're cutting in and out on us.
What?
You said oncologists believe the same thing. What did you say after that?
I say the psychiatrist, the Phoebus oncologists believe the same thing that the psychiatrist does.
Okay.
So why is it that these people who are dealing with virtual life and death, that's fine, in our life and death, why is it that they are steeped in energy flow, that they were reared that way, and yet they are in the profession that they're in, and they rely on their energy in order to help people, while at the same time going through the methods that were given to them by the European education and by this an education that denies that this is real. But yet they are in these areas and they are still functioning from those energy flows in terms of dealing with the people who come across their pathway. Why is it that all of a sudden these people are expressing this? Why is that? Why is it that the ideals of indigenous people are at the forefront again? Why is that? Because we have talked ad nauseum about being one with the universe. We have constantly talked about being one with the universe. We've talked about being one with quote unquote nature, which means that the consciousness of the earth so that we can bring balance to it. We've talked about that. So is this a message that's saying that the principles of indigenous people is beginning to surface in a way that it is receiving, not only receiving from the macro, but also feeding the macro? Because the energy supersedes the intellectual education, academic education. The energy supersedes all of that. And that is the reason you can explain a principle that you learn in school, but it's extremely difficult to explain a spiritual principle. It's more of an experience than it is a verbalization of that principle. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And you know, when we talk about uncovering things, your mind automatically goes to thinking that those things are negative or things that have been against people of color all the time. But the recovery and the uncovering also had to do with truth and enlightenment. So yeah, that does make sense. It fits right into what we've been saying.
So and not only that, I hope she'll not understand it, but Catherine Masseuse also does Reiki. She energy. That's our focal point. So why are we coming in contact with these people? Because in order for the earth to be balanced, in order for as above, so is below, meaning that this universal energy must be the empowering force in this earth. And that's a message saying to us that this empowering force that has kept the earth from being destroyed, this empowering force that established the principles of our Creator, the principles of Ein Sof, the principles of light itself, it has been quashed all of these years. And now what's happening here is like a rays of light peeping through a membrane that has holes punched in it. And the holes are getting larger because the membrane is being broken so that the light can come through. And it's not being hidden on the bushel basket. It's so that everybody in the room can see, meaning that everybody on earth has the opportunity to use to experience their eye and see this light with their eye. That experience is bringing us, is uniting us in terms of our spiritual essence, as opposed to uniting an African, an Indian, or Pakistani. It is uniting us as humans, meaning humans, as you explained about humans earlier. That's what's happening. And when we are humans, we've got to be like Jesus was when it came to Judah. He taught us so much that we have not seen. He taught us, even if you have someone that's seeking to destroy you, even if you have someone who's nasty to you, who tells you, we could have saved this money and given it to the poor. We could have sold this oil weather and given it to the poor. Even when you have that surrounding you, you don't throw it away and you don't run from it. You allow it to run its course. And what happened? And it hangs itself eventually, meaning that when it runs its course, it dies on the vine, on the vine. And when it dies on the vine, it is not a death that is not reconstituted. It becomes fertilizer for life itself. Does that make sense? Any questions or comments?
I have a question. We talked about,
Speak up.
my question is, you said we let it run its course on the vine, but in that process, and this is just in my head, aren't there events that come along to prune it? I think we talked about pruning on the vine, not to the detriment of the vine. But are there events?
That's the same principle. It doesn't matter.
Okay, all
See,
right.
this is the thing. Judas is not a person.
Mhm.
Jesus is a principle.
Okay.
Jesus is a principle, or a set of principles, rather.
Right.
Matthew is a principle. Okay?
Okay.
George sent me a book, and it opened my eyes to something. Have you asked yourself, why is it that all these Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are English names as opposed to being African names when the book was written in Africa? It is a subliminal, it has a subliminal effect that says to us that everything, every name and every principle in the scriptures emanates from the lips of the oppressor, from Caucasians, Europeans.
That being the New Testament?
That being the Old Testament too. Moses is the principles of the Old Testament. If you pick up the New Testament and see those names, and see that, and you see this Jesus on the wall, blonde-headed, what do you see? You see, subliminally, you are worshiping a white God and you don't realize it.
So what are Genesis, Deuteronomy, and X? Those are not?
No.
Okay, okay.
So all of the point I'm trying to make is this: we have to cleanse ourselves without hatred, without animosity. We have to know the truth and embrace it with the depth in the depths of our soul without animosity. And when we do that, we are the essence of the principles of Yeshua. We become those principles. We are looking for a man that's called Jesus when it's the principle that calls one that's really one who delivers. Delivers from what? Deliver you from you and your ideals that are antithetical to the principles of the universe. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes, sir, it does. It makes sense.
No, I was giving it back to you, unless there are questions or comments.
Well, I do have another question. If someone else has a question, I don't want to keep asking my questions only. Okay. My question is this. I want to tie that in with what we talked about a couple of weeks ago. I want to go back to rest. I want to look at rest and what the energy that we push out when we reflect on the creation. If you take this day as an example, the last hour and a half we've been talking, and you use that energy, that all those expressions, everything that is being said, pull that into rest and show us how to push that out. What do we do with this?
When I talk about meditating to release into the universe, if we are living truly in a state of meditation, then as the energy left Jesus' body, so does the energy of our discussions leave ours. If we leave this setting and we are trying to figure out what part that we taught applies to somebody else, then you're not releasing. you're not even here. If we leave this session and give no thought ever until tomorrow morning to what we are discussing, then are we really releasing? Now, my suggestion, and I keep referencing me because again, I know what I do. I'm not familiar with what you do, and there's no set way. What I do, my desire is living in a constant state of meditation. I am constantly flowing right now. I feel it. I'm experiencing this powerful surge, and what I'm experiencing is not only the receiving but the release of everything. Every word that flows from my mouth travels with energy. My desire is for all of this energy to be released. But guess what? This evening or tonight at some point, I will sit and I will begin to meditate. And like I said at the onset, I don't meditate for anything, just on behalf of humanity. So everything that needs to be released from today is released into the macro, not only as we are saying it, but we are increasing the flow when it's our desire. Does that make sense? It's like 20 gauge break, a 20 amp breaker would do it. In terms of the light, it would do it. And eventually, what we are while we're talking, we are that 20 amp breaker. However, when we purposely do it, we that 60 amp breaker, which will carry us the power to a stove. So it carries much more energy, much more light. Are you following me? So we are consciously, purposefully doing this, and it increases that amperage. So it does not flow as slowly or in a minute way. It gets there, but it is amplified by virtue of our desires for it to be amplified. Make sense? Mr. Ron?
Yes, sir. It does make sense. So the constant the meditation is because you again rest is reflecting back, right? Reflecting on this. So the reflection is I don't need to, because I ain't nowhere in the world you if you know me, because you can ask me tomorrow what we talked about today, and I'm not going to be able to tell you. But that's not the reflection. The reflection is recognizing that we are speaking truth, we are uncovering truth, and we are doing this for the betterment of man. So the pushing it out is pushing it out so that truth can go out, and man can see who he is. And it in the process of doing so, it moves each and every one of us to a state where we see who we are and improve ourselves. And what I mean by improve is what we've always discussed is I change the world by changing me. And from the least person on here, is for at least not in terms of the word least, I mean it's for his understanding, because we don't all understand the same. But the purpose of that is that each and every one of us do this, and that is equivalent to the people understanding in their own language, because each and every one of us push something out, somebody will receive it in a manner that he or she needs to receive it. That's what I got from what you just said.
Okay, and and that is pretty much what I just said. However, I want to look at understanding for a minute. Understanding Understanding spiritually has nothing to do with intellectual or mindful understanding. Understanding has everything to do with what resonates. What are you experiencing when you are receiving, when you are hearing with your eye as opposed to your ears? What are you experiencing? And with that spiritual understanding does not rely on being able to regurgitate what you heard with your ears. That spiritual understanding has everything to do with you knowing who you are and allowing that spiritual experience to flow from you. It is not being able to repeat to me what I said or to explain to someone else what was said. Because I like Ron. If you ask me at 6 o'clock this evening, you don't have to wait till the morning. You ask me at 6 o'clock this evening, and you say, well, what did we talk about today? I have to tell you, wait till it's posted. Now, if you ask me a question about it 6 months from now, I can deal with it. You understand? Now, I cannot regurgitate it, and I'm not, if I want to know a scripture or where it's found, I used to ask Mott, but she transitioned, and my go-to is George, my brother. Because George, he never failed me. I ain't gonna say yet. but I don't have that recall for the scriptures, but I do have recall for what's being shown to me, what I've been shown and the experiences that I've had over the years. I have recall for those things, and I don't have them until it is necessary. I remember I was talking to female kids, and they read novels, and I told them I don't, because I want to leave that space vacant for who's reading. And the funny thing about it is that I made a statement, and I was saying to people, I'm like, I know I read this, I can't figure out where I read it, and I'm trying to find it. And she says to me, that's why you need to start reading 2 or 3 books at one time. But that's what I do. Sometimes it's more. And that might be the thing. But also, I suppose I did not need to find it, because if I did, I'd have that recall. Does that make sense? Mr. Roy?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Any other questions or comments, guys? Okay, are we good for now then? You want to pause here till tomorrow morning?
I think we should.
Okay, lots been said, so again, thank you everyone. Questions and comments, and have a great day, and we'll look forward to meeting again tomorrow morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, teachers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Bye-bye.
Okay.